Penguin Random House Audio presents The Whistler by Nick Medina, narrated by Shaun Taylor-Corbett. Tell me dreams really come true, whistling, whistling, here in the dark with you. Henry Mancini, Whistling Away the Dark. Author's Note: The Whistler includes instances of ableism, body horror, blood and gore depictions, loss of autonomy, paralysis, and grief and loss depictions. Please listen with your best interests in mind. Prologue. Her nose left a glossy smudge on the kitchen window. She stood back and rubbed the spot, a single fingertip doing circles on the glass, spreading the oil, making it less opaque. Her eyes scanned the darkening yard outside. A fiery orange band burned above the ground between the garage and the shed. She squinted to see between the trees to the left and right of the structures. Branches bobbed in the breeze. A chorus of katydids or cicadas, or something she'd rather not see, swelled on the air, encroaching on the glass. "Jackie! Now!" Loud and harsh, the irritated voice from the TV room overpowered the boisterous announcer and the enthusiastic audience applause of the game show blaring through the TV speakers. She'd already protested, but impending rain made it essential that she get out there now before her mother's hard work went to waste. She scanned the yard once more, darker than it had been just a moment ago, then grabbed the laundry basket and hurried out the back door. 5 minutes, she told herself. 5 minutes, and then she'd be back inside, back on the phone, back to whispering about her secret with Gabe. The thought put a smile on her face, replacing the expression of worry she'd worn for most of the day, which her mother took no notice of as she hollered, "What are you waiting for, Jackie?" And, "I want the clothes in before it rains." And, "You'll do it in the dark if you have to." Her stomach grumbled on the walk across the yard to the first of 3 long laundry lines. She'd skipped dinner to talk to him. She'd done it before, and she'd do it again. Gabe's voice and his promises were all the sustenance she needed. In just over 3 weeks, their secret would be out. She'd be a high school graduate by then, and if all went to plan, she'd have her own laundry line to tend not long after that. The basket landed with a soft thud against the grass at her feet. Hands working quickly, she unclipped the first of her father's shirts, deposited the clothespins into the little blue bag hanging from the line, and proceeded to fold the shirt against her chest. If her mother hadn't insisted on everything being folded to combat wrinkles, she'd have tossed the shirt straight into the basket. 1 down, about 100 to go. She smoothed another shirt against her chest. Craning her head, she looked at all the laundry that awaited and groaned, not for a second considering that her mother might have groaned about it too, because she didn't just have to hang the laundry. She had to gather it, haul it, and wash it, all by herself and before starting dinner. Instead, Jackie thought about Gabe's latest promise, a vow to buy her a poodle, so she could shape its hair and dye it any color she wanted. She dropped a sundress into the basket, then pulled her father's slacks from the line. Worn in the seat, the old slacks got her thinking about all the years her parents had spent together, creating a family and a home, growing increasingly more disenchanted with each other as time went by. She folded the slacks and set them atop her mother's dress. The musky aroma of impending rain overpowered the fresh air clean scent of Rinso, the heavy-duty detergent her mother faithfully used. She kicked the basket along the grass and hurried down the line, her folding getting sloppier by the second, the night getting darker, too. She pictured her forthcoming poodle puppy to distract herself from the declining light. It'd be white and fluffy with eyes that smiled and a... She dropped the undershirt in her hands, her heart suddenly kicking for freedom against the inside of her chest. Her eyes darted frantically about. The garage, the shed, the trees. She spied nothing unusual around her. The whistle she'd just heard, however, an airy and sharp two-toned burst, flooded her with fear, tempting her feet to carry her back to the house, where, if intercepted, her mother would force her back outside until she removed every last stitch of clothing from the lines. Wavering, she scanned the yard again, wishing she'd thought to bring her father's USA light along. It was older than her and stout enough to swing like a club. As it was, all she had to protect herself were the clothespins that hardly hurt when, as a child, she'd clamp them to the ends of her fingers like wooden witch's nails. Something rustled to her left, and she nearly ran, but then she spotted it. The little bird perched in the tree by the garage. Her heart began to settle. "Shouldn't you be—" she started, wondering why the small creature wasn't already in its nest, especially with rain on the way. "Burning the midnight oil, I guess." Seeing the bird soothed her, and it helped her make sense of what had happened out in the woods the night before. She picked up the undershirt she'd dropped, convincing herself that the whistle had indeed come from the bird. It was a Carolina chickadee, wasn't it? White and gray with a cap of black feathers, the only chickadee found in Louisiana State. They whistled like that, didn't they? Birders like her grandpa described the chickadee two-tone call as a Phoebe sound, the first tone higher, shriller, startling, perhaps, if it caught you off guard at night. But had it been a Phoebe she'd heard, or something else? She eyed the bird, silently urging it to whistle again, just to be sure that the whistle hadn't come from anything else. The bird stayed silent. Stubborn? She stuck her tongue out at it, choosing to blame the bird for what she'd heard, because the only other explanation would birth goosebumps all along her limbs. She put the undershirt into the basket, then unclipped the t-shirt she hadn't wanted her mother to wash. She did it on purpose, Jackie huffed, because she'd been perfectly clear when she told her mom that the t-shirt wasn't ever to come off her bedroom wall, where she'd tacked it next to images of David Bowie, Mick Jagger, and Bruce Springsteen, just some of her rock gods. T-shirt to her nose, she inhaled, her anger intensifying at the commingled sense of rinso and impending rain because all she wanted to smell was Gabe, sweaty and smoky, the way he'd smelled while wearing the shirt with his arm around her. "Which one?" he'd asked, letting her pick a shirt for him at the merch stand. "That one." She'd pointed to the gray tee with the words, "Train kept a-rollin'" on it, curved above, U.S. Tour 1974, and the image of a steam train. The words Civic Auditorium, Santa Monica, California, April 11 through 12, sat beneath the image of the train. The winged Aerosmith logo sat beneath the words. Per her father's orders, she'd been clearing spiderwebs containing about 1 billion bug carcasses from around the front door when Gabe had pulled up at the curb. Passenger window down, he'd waved her over, and she, giddy at the sight of him, had run straight for the street, tossing the broom she'd been using into the bushes beside the door. "Get in," he'd said, and she had, throwing her arms around him inside the truck. "Can I take you on an adventure far, far away?" She'd have gone with him anywhere. And so she'd nodded, leaving all responsibilities behind like the broom in the bushes, no concern for the fear her parents might feel upon finding her missing. Over the next 3 days, they drove 26 hours, stopping in western Louisiana, all throughout Texas, once in New Mexico, a couple times in Arizona, and once in California before reaching the coast, just in time to make the show at the Civic Auditorium. She hadn't cared that she didn't have clean clothes to wear or any money in her pocket. She'd been happy to use his toothbrush and to curl up beside him in the sleeping bag he kept in the bed of his pickup. The stars their nightlight, the sun their morning alarm. She hadn't cared either that they had cheap seats at the concert. Neither had been to a real rock show before, and the spectacle they witnessed that night, one that infiltrated their senses with dazzling lights, sequined clothes, billowing scarves, manes of hair, weed smoke in their noses and on their tongues, and rip-roaring music chock full of screaming guitars, and earth-quaking bass, relentless drums, and the raspiest, most magnificent voice in all of rock and roll, would live inside them forever. It was on the way home, somewhere between Dallas and the Louisiana state line.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?